Yeah, so once again, attention, I guess we have to every once in a while remember the states, not just when they get the FARC, but, also on what they're doing with the resources. Of course, the conversation of giving them more power to explore the resources on their soil, especially the mineral resources and all of that, is an ongoing one. Well, we have constitution amendments or new constitution, not constitution amendment, but having a new constitution. That conversation is going on now. Perhaps it should be one of the items on the list. But now let's talk about another item on the country's list, which is energy transition, energy management, production and distribution in the country. We hear that the federal government loses about 843 or lost 843 billion naira to gas flaring between January 2022 and August 2023. That data was obtained by the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. And there's still a whole lot to be done with this gas. In fact, some people say Nigeria should be known more as a gas country, a gas-rich country, rather than oil, because we have more gas. And we've been talking about banning or ending gas flaring for many years now. It seems we have not gotten that yet in shape. But let's see what Dr. WISDOM Enang has to say about this. He's an oil and gas expert. Dr. Enang, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
The issue of gas flaring obviously is not new.
Yeah.
We see the government has lost about 843, they say, between January 2022 and 2023. And then on the other side, we also see that there are some benefits to this gas flaring.
Correct.
Yeah. So help us to balance the benefits and the disadvantages and the need to end it, because that's the conversation that's going on.
Yeah, so before we even go towards talking about what the gas flaring means for the economy, I'd like to just take us through a journey. There's been a concerted effort actually to reduce flaring and even to kind of eliminate flaring completely. If we look at the early days of 2018, for example, there was the flare regulations, flare gas regulations, which allowed the government to be able to put out a polluters pay sort of policy against companies that are flaring. That was a precursor actually for the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program, because they allowed access to gas flare sites by the federal government without royalties and without payments of any kind, and a bid to monetize it. Now, what we found is that over the years, we've reduced actually our ratio of the overall gas that is flared. It's been reduced. I mean, right in the early days, we had about 20%, but now it's about 10%. But even at that, the 10% is still very significant, and that's why we're having the conversation today. Now, the question in our minds will be, why do we even flare? The two key reasons why we flare. The first will be the fact that we may not have the infrastructure required to utilize on site the gas that we actually produce. And then the second would be for emergency reasons. If there are emergency reasons and there's a process upset, and then of course flaring will be the safe thing to do to not put the assets on the harm's way. The question is, what efforts are we doing as a country to be able to eliminate flare? And in light of the...
So before you go to those efforts, I know that one of the efforts is that penalty. I'm interested in knowing, I think they said the penalty for flaring currently is supposed to be $2 per 1,000. The implementation of that, or is that price not steep enough to discourage?
No, the thing is this. There is what I would call a maximum ceiling to the potential of every measure that you want to put out, right? So if you're looking at something like, say, you're using a regulatory approach, or you're using a kind of penalty approach, right? There's just what you can achieve. You cannot completely eliminate flare that way. So this is why the government had to go through, thought it wise, to go through a sort of an economic-driven approach to be able to eliminate flare. So let's create an economic incentive, which is a win-win for everybody, which is what actually midwifed the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program, to say, okay, how do we put on a market-based approach for us to end flaring, and in a way that actually allows us to consume gas? Because at the moment, right, if you look at some of the value chain of the gas network for Nigeria, you have 40% is export-based. You have another 20% that is based for domestic utilization, but that's mostly power, right? And there's a lot of debt in the power sector. And then, of course, you have another 20% of it being utilized on site, right, for the process and everything, gas injection and, of course, gas lift and the rest. Then, of course, you have the 10% remaining, which is the flare, and we're trying to completely eliminate that 10%. So the thing is, you need a number of approaches if you want to succeed. There is no way in the world that penalties alone would cut it, because let me give you some context. If you look at a scenario where there are perhaps a gas flare site, and then you do not have the infrastructure. You've maximized the potential of using at that particular site, and then you don't have the infrastructure to put that flare site. Either one, you don't have the infrastructure to take it to commingle them and then make them commercial quantities that you can then begin to utilize at the domestic level, of course. And then, or you do not have the right constituents that you need to make money, because when you're looking at the economics, you then look at what are the constituents of the gas? Are you having dry gas? Are you having wet gas? And then what is your monetization strategy? And that would inform the monetization strategy, and the volume of gas will inform the bankability of the project that you're about to do, and how long it's going to take you to make money, and how long you're going to be making money for. Some of those sites, you find out that, okay, despite everything that you put together, it's not still giving you that commercial incentive to go out and explore it. And that sometimes flaring still has to go on. But what we're saying is that flaring has to go on only if it has to go on. That, tackling flaring will mean we're bringing it to a point where it's very minimum. It's not something that is everyday thing that is happening. It's only if you must flare and there are basis for it, and of course then the penalty applies. But you know that your benefits of flaring at that point completely outweighs
and something
more than penalties. Yeah.
So we know that recently Nigeria signed an MOU, a deal with a Chinese firm and they suppose it's a $1 billion agreement to fund and develop gas flaring solutions for Nigeria. Yeah. And sometimes we just hear these things. What would be this solution? What would it look like? Would it go to sites? Would it be a pipeline? Help us who are not in the sector to understand.
Yeah, so I don't have specifics about that particular deal, but what I would like to say is when the Nigerian gas flare commercialization was rolled out at the time where I read about it and sort of appreciated what was going on, the gas flare commercialization program intended to take these flare sites and create projects. So allow investors to come in and then pitch whatever projects that they felt was going to be best for each site. And then I think as I hear right now, 49 flare sites have been awarded to about 42 companies. And so what the flexibility there allows each company to come in and build a solution. So if you're asking what
are the possible solutions?
Correct.
Exactly.
The solution could be perhaps you could have a petrochemical company. You could have maybe a fertilizer company. You could have a CNG company that building. You could also have power solutions. So those are the number of solutions. You could have an LNG mini LNG depending on how big it is. But for most of the domestic use, the CNG is going to top the chart because that's going to allow you to be able to take gas. Essentially, right? There are zones that are already kind of developed and they're looking for gas to build on further. And a lot of those zones are up north, right? And that's what the AKK is trying to solve. So imagine if one of the solutions were to be someone taking compressed natural gas from the building a mother station down south, taking compressed natural gas down south and then taking it up north to where you might require for a lot of those industrial processes. So what
doesn't need to be far away. I thought it makes economic sense to be close to your source.
No, it makes economic sense to be close to your source. But what I'm saying is that in addition to opening up industries close to your source, right, there's also a big potential with the technology that we're talking about to be able to expand the utilization across the various, areas of the country, both the ones that are matured, but the ones that are also coming up, and the ones that, of course, are still conceptualized. That's what I'm saying, that the technological approach, right, is going to solve one of two things. It's going to solve the infrastructure problem. It's also going to open up it's going to stimulate the market, essentially. And that's basically, that was the basis of the Nigerian gas flare commercialization. So building on that, I think there are a number of technological options that have been explored. I don't know which one the company is exploring, but I know for definite that the CNG fertilizer plants, those are some of the options that we are going to see over the course of the next few months. Remember, sequel to the award of the Nigerian gas commercialization flare sites, we're going to see a lot of technological rollout because these companies have come in, the bid, and Nigeria has accepted that, okay, you can go on and deploy. So we're going to see a lot of that. And there's going to be a lot of complementary efforts because you find out that on one end, someone is going to be doing, CNG, for example, and on the other end, someone is going to be setting up maybe a urea plant, and someone is going to be supplying that gas. So I see a lot of synergy happen, and I think the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission are going to be looking at harmonizing some of those bidders to make sure that we can leverage on economies of scale and to make sure that we can optimize on our execution. So, we can have a maximized benefit for the Nigerian economy.
The only thing is we don't have timelines to this thing. So, Nigerians just wait and hope to see the spillover of these promises and ideas and MOUs and deals. $1 billion for it. This is just one of it.
Well, so we don't have timelines, and I can say we have body language. Yeah, I can say we have body language, and for reasons why. Because I think you've also heard of the new executive orders by the president, right? And essentially,
the oil and gas
reforms, right? Mm-hmm. Essentially putting out a body language, right? Saying we're ready for business, and I think that should resonate across the entire, ministries and agencies of the government to say, look, whatever we want to do, we need to put it out fast. We've spent 6 years already waiting for the award of the Nigerian gas commercialization program license.
We had a year of gas once.
Yeah, we did, but everything is building up, right? Everything is building. We had a year of gas, and then we had COVID. We had a year of gas, and then we have COVID.
Okay, so COVID cut it off, and then we forgot the year of gas.
No, we didn't forget.
Okay.
It metamorphosed into the decade of gas.
Yeah. There was a decade of gas.
And then after that...
But even the decade of gas was supposed to end when?
No, it's not ending.
The decade is 10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's an end to it.
No, there is an end, but it hasn't ended yet. but essentially what I'm saying is, better late than never, right? We all know the Nigerian story that our gas value chain was predominantly developed for export, right? And it is in recent times that we're having the concerted efforts to actually go out there and develop our gas resources and consume it as well as we're developing. One interesting thing is that all of this that we're talking about is still non-associated gas, right? And it's interesting because I think what the presidential initiative is trying to do is to complement that and say, okay, we have already put out programs to allow us make economic recovery from our non-associated gas fields. However, we are at the point where we need to start talking about the associated gas because, we're the non-associated gas, but now we need to start talking about the non-associated gas, which is you going out to develop gas fields, and which is where we're seeing that complementary effort. So I think, although we are coming late to the party, I like to say, compared to other countries, but better late than never. I think we still have a chance to sort of maximize that. But one thing that I like to say that we need to do very quickly is, we need to reinforce confidence in the way we execute things. And the second thing is, when the market structure permits, we need to look at our domestic gas pricing. Because the reason I'm saying so is we would need a better domestic gas price to be able to stimulate the investments required for the non-associated gas fields.
I hear you about the domestic gas pricing. Very important for a lot of us. Well, thank you so much, Dr. WISDOM Enang, for your thoughts. Oil and gas experts. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Business Incorporated continues with the markets. To stay with us.